Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I'm Danny. I'm 35 years old, and up until a year ago I thought I had it all figured out. Martha and I had been together since college. One of those couples everyone looked at and said, "Wow, they're solid." We had our routine, our little traditions. Sunday brunch at our favorite café, family movie nights with our son Leo, and weekend getaways to her parents' lake house. I had a stable job as an insurance analyst. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. And Martha worked part-time at a boutique without stress. Life was steady, comfortable, maybe too comfortable. I started noticing it before I could really put a name to it. The way she'd scroll through her phone a little too long at night. The way she started sighing when I told her about my day. The way she picked at her food at dinner, her eyes glazing over when I talked about our weekend plans. I ignored it. We'd been together too long for me to start overthinking things. Then Ryan came back to town. Ryan, a name I hadn't heard in years, but one that sent a ripple through our marriage the moment it appeared on her phone screen. At first it was harmless. Ryan was her first boyfriend, since high school and into the first years of college before Martha and I got together. They had history, but it was ancient history. He'd moved to Chicago, built some big business empire, and now, for some reason, he was back. And Martha? She was excited. She barely looked up from her phone when she told me about it. "Oh my God, Danny, Ryan's back in town. He just messaged me. Can you believe it?" I shrugged. "Yeah? That's cool, I guess." She grinned, biting her lip. "I mean, it's been years. He was such a huge part of my life back then. He's doing amazing now. Started his own company, travels all the time, just got featured in some magazine. Crazy, right?" I nodded, but something in my stomach tightened. That was the first time I felt it. That shift. That thing that happens when someone starts looking at their past and wondering if maybe they should have taken a different road. At first it was small things. Ryan's name started popping up more than I was comfortable with. It was subtle, almost like background noise. Easy to ignore if I wasn't paying attention. But then, it became impossible to miss. "Ryan just opened another business. Can you believe it?" she said one evening, scrolling through her phone at the dinner table. "Huh. That's cool," I mumbled, taking a bite of my food. "No, like it's really cool, Danny. He started from nothing and now he's running 3 companies. He's all over the news. God, I always knew he'd do something big." Something about the way she said it didn't sit right, like admiration wrapped in something heavier. I let it slide, but soon, his name was everywhere. "You know, Ryan always said I had the best taste in clothes," she mentioned casually while picking out an outfit for dinner. "Ryan's hosting this fundraiser downtown next week. Oh, you probably wouldn't like it, though." One night as I walked into the living room, I caught her laughing at her phone. Her fingers moved quickly over the screen, typing out something with this little smile playing on her lips. "What's funny?" I asked, leaning in. She clicked off the screen so fast you'd think it burned her. "Nothing. Just a meme." A meme, right. But I didn't press it. Maybe I should have. Then the coincidences started. Ryan just happened to stop by the boutique where she worked. They bumped into each other at the grocery store. She'd casually mentioned grabbing coffee with him, brushing it off like it was nothing. "Just catching up," she'd say with a shrug. But she never looked at me when she said it. And that's when I started noticing the little shifts in her habits. The way she'd turn her phone screen slightly away when I walked by. The way her texts with him were always short when I was around, but I'd see her typing for long stretches when she thought I wasn't looking. One time, as we were lying in bed, she turned over and I caught a glimpse of her screen reflecting in the dark. A long conversation with his name at the top. She quickly exited out of the chat before I could read anything. "Who were you texting?" I asked, my voice careful. "No one, just Sarah." Lying, but I didn't call her out on it. Not yet. I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't really there. She wouldn't cross that line. She wouldn't hurt me. Ryan was just a ghost from her past. Eventually, he'd fade away. I was wrong. One evening, as I sat on the couch flipping through channels, Martha walked in, casually mentioning something that made my stomach tighten. "Ryan invited us to a dinner party." I looked up. "Us?" "Yeah," she said, fixing her earrings in the hallway mirror. "He actually thinks you two would get along. He said he respects you for being such a steady guy. Something about the way she said it, steady guy, felt off, like she was already putting us into different categories. Ryan, the successful entrepreneur, the man who travels the world, and me, the steady guy. I don't know, Martha. I mean, do you really think this is a good idea? She turned, exhaling sharply. Oh my God, are we really doing this? Danny, Ryan's just being friendly. I swear you're acting so weird about this. Weird. Like it was my fault for feeling something shift between us. I dropped it. What else could I do? But that was the night I really started paying attention. It wasn't just the dinner invite. It was everything that came before it, and everything that came after. The comparison started slow. Little remarks. Ryan's got this insane work ethic, it's inspiring. Ryan's been to like 10 countries this year. Imagine having that kind of freedom. You know, Ryan actually listens when people talk, like he really pays attention. Each comment was a small cut. One alone wouldn't hurt, but over time they started piling up. Then it got less subtle. I just wish you were more, I don't know, ambitious. She said it one night while we were getting ready for bed. I was brushing my teeth and she was standing by the dresser, scrolling through her phone. I paused mid-brush, met her eyes in the mirror. Ambitious? I repeated, trying to keep my voice neutral. She shrugged. I mean, don't you ever want more? More than just this? She gestured vaguely around our bedroom, our house, our life. I work hard, Martha. I know, she said quickly. I just mean, sometimes it feels like you're content to just stay in the same place forever. I rinsed my mouth and turned to face her. And that's a bad thing? She hesitated, then forced a smile. No, of course not. Forget I said anything. But I couldn't, because I knew what she meant. Ryan was ambitious. Ryan was exciting. Ryan was always moving forward. And me? I was just standing still. It didn't stop there. I started noticing the way she acted around him. She dressed a little nicer when she knew she'd see him. Tight-fitting dresses, heels she hadn't worn in years, a little more perfume. Her laugh changed too, became lighter, more playful. And the worst part? He noticed. I'd catch Ryan looking at her a second too long, his smile lingering just enough to make my fists clench under the table. And she soaked it in. Meanwhile, I started disappearing. At home, she was distant, distracted. She'd be on her phone late into the night, the screen glow lighting up her face while I lay next to her, pretending to be asleep. At work, I'd catch myself zoning out, replaying conversations in my head, wondering if I was losing my mind or if I was actually losing my wife. Deep down, I already knew the answer. This wasn't just nostalgia. This was something else. And it was only getting worse. One night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. She came home from a quick drink with a friend, but I knew better. The way she checked her phone, the glow on her face. It wasn't just a friend. Martha, I don't want you seeing Ryan again. My voice was too calm. She scoffed. Excuse me? You heard me. I don't trust him. And I don't trust whatever this is turning into. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Danny, are we really doing this? Ryan is my friend. That's it. I stepped closer. You sure? Because it doesn't seem like he just wants to be friends, and you're not exactly shutting him down. She let out a sharp laugh. You're so insecure. Do you even hear yourself? You hide your phone. You dress up for him. You talk about him more than me. My patience was razor thin. Tell me, Martha, who's really the problem here? She crossed her arms. If you can't handle my friendship with Ryan, maybe you're the problem. That one stung. I searched for the woman I married. She wasn't there. I didn't argue. Didn't fight. I just walked past her and went to bed. I didn't reach for her that night. Or the next. For 2 days we barely spoke. Then Martha told me Ryan was hosting another dinner party, and that she was going, whether I liked it or not. I almost stayed home, but something told me that if I let her go alone, I'd regret it. So I went. The second we walked in, I knew I didn't belong. The room was filled with the kind of people who reeked of money, expensive watches, tailored suits, and smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Martha, on the other hand, fit right in. She was glowing. Dressed in a sleek black dress I hadn't seen before, heels that made her legs look longer. She looked different. Ryan spotted us and grinned. "Danny," he called, but his eyes were already on Martha. He strode past me like I wasn't even there and pulled her into a hug. A long hug. His hand lingered just a second too long on her back. She laughed softly, tilting her head up to meet his eyes. "Still not tired of me yet?" she teased, her voice light, familiar. I stood there watching them, feeling like an outsider in my own marriage. Finally, Ryan turned to me. "Glad you could make it, man." He clapped me on the back like we were old friends. I forced a smile, took my seat. And then, I noticed everything. The way Martha leaned in when Ryan spoke, how she touched his arm when she laughed, the way he looked at her, like she was the only woman in the room, and how her face lit up, glowing with something I hadn't seen in a long time. My stomach twisted. I gripped my glass so hard I thought it might break. Dinner passed in a blur. I barely touched my food. My ears buzzed with the sound of their laughter, their inside jokes, their shared glances. And then came the moment that finally snapped something in me. Someone made a joke about exes, and Martha, with a tipsy giggle, chimed in. "I mean, Ryan and I have a healthy friendship, right? It's not weird, it's just mature. Not every guy is so insecure about things like that." The table laughed. My stomach turned. I put my fork down. My jaw tightened. "Insecure?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. Martha gave me a sideways glance, already annoyed. "Oh, come on, Danny. It's not my fault Ryan is bigger than you in every way." Silence. I felt the weight of every stare at that table, a ringing in my ears. Ryan shifted in his seat, suddenly uncomfortable. Someone cleared their throat. But Martha just took another sip of wine, like she hadn't just gutted me in front of everyone. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around my napkin. "How long have you been pretending, Martha?" I turned to her, my heart hammering. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a hell of a lot like you wish you were with him instead of me." Her smile faltered. Her eyes darted around the table, searching for an escape. Ryan cleared his throat. "Hey man, I think you're misreading." "No," I cut him off, standing up. "I don't think I am." I grabbed my napkin, tossed it onto my plate. "You know what? You two can have your little nostalgia trip. I hope it was worth it." I turned and walked out. I didn't wait for her. I didn't even look back. That was the last time Martha and I lived under the same roof as husband and wife. She came home late, expecting a fight, maybe even wanting one. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just packed a bag. "Danny, can we just talk about this?" she asked, arms crossed as she leaned against the bedroom doorframe. "Talk about what, Martha?" I zipped up my duffel bag, barely looking at her. "How you spent the entire night making me feel like a third wheel in my own marriage. How you humiliated me in front of Ryan and all his rich friends." She groaned, rubbing her temples. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is. It was just a joke." I turned to her, finally meeting her eyes. "Was it?" She hesitated, and that was enough. I slung the bag over my shoulder and walked past her. "You made your choice, Martha, and now I'm making mine." I left, and this time I really didn't look back. The divorce was ugly. Martha played the victim, spinning it like I was the one who gave up on our marriage. She cried in court, talked about how much she loved Leo, how she just wanted things to be civil. But the truth was written all over our town. People had seen the way she acted with Ryan. They'd heard the whispers at that dinner party, watched the way she looked at him, talked about him, compared me to him. But courts don't care about emotional cheating. They care about stability. And as much as it shattered me, she won custody. I walked out of that courtroom with a signed divorce, a handful of visitation rights, and an emptiness I hadn't prepared for. Martha, on the other hand, walked out victorious, but she didn't look happy. Maybe she thought Ryan would be waiting for her. He wasn't. Ryan moved on fast. Some new woman. Probably another project for him to chase before he got bored and found someone else. Meanwhile, I got a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy. Just enough space for Leo to stay on weekends. I spent a lot of nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I let everything slip away. I wondered if she felt the same. She reached out a few times. "Danny, I think we should talk." But I never responded. Because here's the thing. I was never the problem. She was just too busy looking back to see what was right in front of her. Thank you for watching.